So here I am in the Treasury, talking to Will Hutton, who's undertaken a review of fair pay. It's been published today. Will, can we just start off by you telling us what are the kind of core principles at the heart of the approach you've taken in this report?
Well, it's fairness, but it's fairness as more than apple pie and motherhood. It's quite a close definition of fairness. Fairness is about proportionality, and it's about anyone getting the proper dessert, the due dessert, the appropriate dessert for the contribution that they've made. So the idea is that what you're trying to do is to calibrate salaries in the public sector, and by the way, I think the same principles apply in the private sector, to actually the weight and complexity and responsibility of the role that's undertaken and how well it's been discharged. And that should be how we approach pay in the public sector, rather than saying, gee whiz, what a lot of money someone is making. You've got to look at what actually they're contributing.
And in relation to how you deliver that, it seems to me that the concept of earn back is at the heart of your approach. Can you explain how that's going to work?
Yeah, the idea is that if at the top of an organisation, both you and the people to whom you are accountable need to establish what it is you're trying to do with the organisation and in the year in question. And you should place a part of your salary at risk, at least 10%, maybe more, but at least 10%, which you have to earn back by actually achieving those performance indicators, what's been pre-declared at the beginning of the year to be what you should do. And only if you do that should you be entitled for any kind of enhancement or increment to your pay. So the idea is that if you're at the top of an organisation, you've got some skin in the game, you're at risk. And if things go badly, taxpayers can be assured that you are not going to walk away with no impact on you. It's a no rewards for failure regime. It's also a way of actually honestly reflecting fairness. Only if you've done the job as specified are you going to get the pay at the top. Only if you overperform are you going to get more.
Now, you've got extensive experience of working in organisations in the private and the public sector. There are some kind of perverse outcomes that are in danger with performance-related pay systems. Are there any concerns that you've got? How can we ensure that the way earnback is operated doesn't lead to kind of perverse outcomes? People setting targets which they can easily reach, for example.
Well, I mean, it's true, but that there are, those problems. The first thing I'd say is that not doing this, not having earned back and placing pay at risk in this way, is as big a decision as doing it. Because if you're saying, look, we don't want to have a conversation about what a good performance might look this year. We can't actually, for the life of us, think about what those things could be. And not doing that is as big a statement to your chief executive as doing it. And it may be that you do make mistakes from year to year. I'd live with that as the price of the bigger goal, which is actually legitimising the pay the man or woman makes and actually ensuring that they do their job really well. The second thing is that you've got to have remuneration committees that are able and wise enough to set these standards. And I think that not only should there be independent non-executive directors on them, but there should be a representative of the workforce who knows necessarily what's going on in the organisation. Probably best, actually, and actually what really is the challenge in the year ahead. And thirdly, there's a reporting framework. You are going to have to report the multiple of the top person's pay, including whatever enhancement there might be, in relation to the median year by year, so that if that goes up markedly, you're going to have to explain. The organisation is going to have to explain to the taxpayer, the employee, and the citizens that have been using the service why that happened. And if there aren't damn good reasons, there will be problems.
I sense throughout the report that this idea of transparency is a central feature of the system, that in a way you've rejected the idea of a fixed multiple, because you feel that as long as people are held to account, it's in the public domain, there's employee engagement, that those pressures will be sufficient to get a system that is fairer and seen to be fairer.
That's my view. That is my view. I think if you have an arbitrary kind of ban on paying people some multiple of the bottom person's pay, but it is arbitrary, it is inflexible, you can get to a situation where a large and complicated organisation with lots of people in it, that the pay is artificially held below somebody else's pay who's running a simpler organisation, but where the bottom person's pay is simply higher. And that's a mad situation to get yourself into, and you don't want to be in that place. It's much better to create a framework where you're talking about is the pay deserved? Is there a real accountability mechanism? Are performance indicators being well set? If they're not, is there some feedback loop that will correct them? Is the person at the top at risk if things go pear-shaped? That's really what you want, rather than a kind of arbitrary ban, if you like, on how much someone can make.
You're someone who's associated with a broadly progressive approach. Do you have a nervousness that in the light of caps on public sector pay, in the light of the other Hutton report of last week, that there'll be a kind of sense that we are really beating up on public sector workers at the same time the private sector is allowed to carry on in its own sweet way?
I think there's two things to say. First of all, I think that I open up this report by a big statement that actually the public sector and government and publicness is actually essential and indispensable to well-being of civilization and actually economic growth. And it is needed, what the public sector needs above else is a framework with which, when it gets a tax on how much it's paid, that it has a framework that can say, hold on, look, it is justifiable, it is proportionate, and actually look at our peers in the private sector. It's also a challenge to people in the private sector. And I'm hoping the government will actually require companies to report their pay multiples in the same easy and transparent and easy to understand way that I'm asking the public sector to do it. So my pushback on this is twofold. One, I think we need to re-legitimise the public sector, and we need to permit it to recruit and retain really talented people, and to give talented people the sense that actually they are valued and that there is a framework which permits their valuation. At the same time, it's a challenge to the private sector to say, don't run away with the notion that you are, so much more brilliant than the public sector. You are paid very, very much more. What are you doing to justify that? Do you have the courage to reproduce the kind of principles that the public sector is using in how top people's pay is determined?
Well, I think it's a great report, and I hope people do read it from beginning to end before they rush to judgment. Will Hutton, thank you very much.
Thank you.